let's go. So you're in the right place if this introduction screen looks like the webinar you thought you were coming to. So the top technologies that every surrogacy agency should be using to streamline intake. We have a pretty meaty agenda to get through today. So in terms of what we're going to be doing, we'll introduce ourselves real fast. We're going to talk about when we're talking about the intake path and how to streamline the intake path to save time and money. We're going to tell you what steps we're talking about to make sure we're all on the same page there. We're going to talk about, since we launched Riley, which is our AI intake assistant, we've talked to a ton of agencies, and we're hearing some recurring themes in terms of the patterns, or some patterns in terms of some of the problems that a lot of agencies are running into. So we're just going to highlight some of those because there's some technologies that can help with them. And then the majority of the conversation is going to be in kind of those bottom 2 bullet points. So we're going to talk about how to optimize the current technology you're using to streamline intake, and then make sure you know about, there's 4 new technologies that we're going to talk about. Make sure you know about them and know how to incorporate them into your process. And just a side note, we're going to share these slides and the recording after the session, so you don't have to worry about taking screenshots or taking notes. And then for anybody wondering, like, why is there an iceberg on this list? It's because we're going to be pretty high level on some of these topics, but any one of these topics could probably be its own webinar. And so our contact information is going to be on the last slide. So feel free to email us and set up any time to do a one-on-one if you want to. And I'm going to make sure everybody's muted just so that we can get through this without hearing anybody's background noise. And then, of course, if you have questions, we'll keep an eye on that. Feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll make sure we get to them at the end. So quick introductions. So before we talk about the people, just tell you a little bit about SIMBI. So SIMBI is an organization that helps surrogacy professionals balance technology with human touch in order to streamline and improve surrogacy journeys. We know that that is always going to be a balance because these journeys are so deeply human. And we're 2 of the people at SIMBI. So my name is Erin Quick, and I am the Chief Marketing Officer here. And my quick background is I've spent 20 years in brand and marketing. For about 15 of those years, I was running my own agency, building huge global brands like Bluetooth and the Gates Foundation, all the way down to kind of small mom and pop shops. And for the last 5 years, I've been running a technology platform whose mission was to modernize the private adoption industry in the United States. So my kind of personal connection to these deeply personal journeys is my husband and I tried to get pregnant. It didn't work. We went through every protocol available in reproductive technology. I could get pregnant, but I couldn't stay pregnant. And so we kind of hit a breaking point where we're like, okay, no more IVF, adoption or surrogacy. We didn't have the money for surrogacy. And so we pursued adoption, built our family that way. And the process was horrible. And so I think, like, probably a lot of people on this call already either had a horrible experience and want to make it better, or had a great experience and want to get involved. And so I was like, you know what, this is where I want to dedicate myself. And so built a platform aimed at modernizing the private adoption industry, B2B tools for adoption agencies and attorneys, and had a great experience. And that platform was acquired earlier this year, not by private equity, but by actually the largest ethical nonprofit in the private adoption industry. And after that, I had some friends who were like, you should meet this gal named Billy. She's doing some really cool stuff in surrogacy. And so that introduction worked out, and here I am. So Billy, you want to talk about you?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Wonderful to see you all. I'm Billy. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders. All 3 of us are on the call right now. I see Shredder as well. My background has primarily been in fintech and health tech startups, working across the technical sphere. I build apps, I learn how to market them, I run the operations, you name it. I'm a real generalist. And then probably most interestingly, I started and ran a startup called Daylight that was building financial services for the LGBT community. And as you might imagine, a big financial concern for the LGBT community is how to have a family and how to have children and how to go through that deeply complex process. So that was until 2023. We sold that, and then I've been looking to Oh, I'm gonna mute Terry there. And yeah, so I've been was looking to go more deep in the LGBT family space. I am someone who will be building their family with surrogacy one day. It's very, very top of mind. I got married in February, so it's something that right now I'm currently going through the process of figuring out how to pull off this incredibly complex journey. And so over the last year, we've been talking to millions of surrogacy agencies, not literally millions, and learning about the problems that they have and where we might be able to inject our expertise with technology in particular, but also taking the startup ethos of consumer marketing, consumer scaling, that kind of thing, and help agencies do this really, really important mission.
Thanks. Okay, cool. So we'll cruise through these. So the intake path, when we're talking about, just to make sure we're all on the same page, your agency might not divide these into 5 steps. I know some of these are conflated, but typically there's some kind of a recruiting process up front, whether that is paid ads, which we're going to talk a lot about, or whether that's a referral network. And then there's some qualifying piece, some intake piece, usually a longer form application, and then medical screen. So today, the majority of the presentation is going to kind of focus on these steps in intake. And talking about, Billy mentioned the problem. So again, we're talking to a ton of agencies, and some of the recurring themes that we're hearing in terms of the problems that you all are facing are, this has become a highly competitive market for qualified surrogates. And a lot of you are competing against agencies with giant marketing budgets. We were talking to an agency earlier this week, and they threw out some crazy numbers, like $250,000 a month that one of the agencies was spending in paid ads, which, if you're an agency spending $10,000 against an agency spending $250,000, that's a huge delta to overcome, and it means that you can't even waste $1 of your $10,000 budget. This feeling like you have to be always on, I knew about this, agency owners felt this in adoption too, that holidays, nights, weekends, this is a 24/7 process. You never know when a qualified surrogate is going to want to reach out, and the feeling that you have to be available to them all the time is taxing, for sure. And next bullet point, that qualifying and screening can be very, very timely and very expensive. In some of the conversations we're having, it's like 1% to 2% of the people that you're actually talking to are qualified to proceed, which means you're talking to a lot of people that are unqualified, which takes so much time. And then the last one is the messaging, or typically that messaging is primarily around compensation. And there's kind of just a quick note on messaging here, is that in the talks we're having, agencies think that surrogates think compensation is what's most important, but because agencies are then just marketing a lot on compensation, just to be fair to surrogates, it creates this kind of toxic loop where they're like, oh, so compensation must be the differentiator. And so that's the only apples to apples comparison that they have to make this decision. And so it gets into this really bad loop of like, who will advertise higher compensation in order to get more. And that's, we want to be able to avoid that. And brand, talking about your agency, your unique point of view, that's one of the ways to avoid that. And so we're actually going to put on a brand building webinar next month. So we'll talk about that, but a brand workshop to help you build those messages so that it's not strictly around compensation. Okay, so let's get into kind of meaty section number 1, which is how to optimize the technology that you are already using to get potential candidates in the door. And so the first one we're going to talk about is paid ads. And typically that means paid ads on Meta, TikTok, and Google. And I will say, again, somebody that's been doing this for 20 years for giant clients and small clients, is most people doing paid outreach, and this doesn't just apply to surrogacy, this is every industry, are doing what I call a spray and pray methodology. So the goal of paid ads is not to just check the box, we're doing paid ads. The goal of paid ads is to find those levers that you can use when you need them to create a consistent flow of leads, to avoid this kind of roller coaster that so many agencies are on of like, I don't know, we're just slow this month, I don't know what it is. And so just BTW, just AI plug, is I created this image in AI in about 30 seconds. But the question is like, well, how do you know if you're doing spray and pray? if you can't answer yes to this question, you're probably spraying and praying. So if I were to give you, everybody on this call, I'm going to give you $50,000 tomorrow, like, do you know exactly which ad message and ad format you would use to optimize that $50,000? And I'm guessing the answer is no, and this is not an indictment of anybody on this call. Every time I would bring on a new client, their answer was typically no also. But kind of just some examples here is if compensation is a message that is really resonating, great. But which message within compensation? And because there's multiple messages that you can use around compensation. We'll talk about that in a second. And then with format, is it video? If it is video that resonates most, is it a testimonial from a surrogate? Is it an overview on the process? There are just so many variables in any kind of paid media or paid outreach that you have to be using a methodical approach to be able to find those levers. So we're going to talk about the method that you should be using. And I will just side note this too, because I saw a lot of this when I was running this for clients, is if you are using an outside person or an agency if you've been using them for more than 6 months, they should be able to tell you what your levers are. And if they can't, that's a big red flag. So how to be methodical about paid ads. One of the first things that you can do, which sounds like common sense, but a lot of people just don't do it, is understand what makes your agency different or special. And one of the best ways to do that is to talk to the people who have used your agency to say, why did you pick us? Did we do something differently in the process that stood out to you? Because or did you have a unique point of view around us, or was it our unique point of view about the process or the support or whatever it is? So talking to the people that have used your agency to better understand what makes your agency different and special. And again, we're doing a brand webinar on August 5th about this to help agencies craft that messaging. The second one is using Meta Ad Library to study the top performing competitor ads. We'll talk about that in a second. Auditing your own ads to understand which are top performing, and then using A/B testing, both in formats. Is it video? Is it carousel? Is it testimonial? And then messaging to see what resonates. Is it compensation? Is it this idea of like a helper identity or archetype? Is it the outcome that it could possibly create for your family or for the surrogate's family? So we're going to walk through each one of these step by step. So Meta Ads Library, for people that don't know, this is a free service. If you are using Meta, you can log into the Meta Ads Library and you can see literally any active ad. And so it's specifically for surrogacy agencies. I think what you can deduce in looking at these ads is if it's a reputable agency running an ad, and if it's been running an ad for a while, and you can see here on the kind of the top arrow there, these ads have been running since May 1st or earlier. So they've been running for a couple months. And granted, I don't know if these are reputable agencies. I'm not pitching or catching on these. But you can see it's been running for a while and it's running on multiple platforms. The chances are that this is a high performing ad for this agency. And so this uses what I like to say the OPM strategy, which means other people's money strategy. So other people are spending money and you get to figure out which messages work best. So this is a really great tool for agencies to evaluate. And I just want to call this out on these ads because I think it's really interesting, is all three of these ads have a compensation message included in them, but they're all slightly different variations. So this first one, Palmetto, instead of talking about a lump annual sum, they break it down into monthly. So they're saying earn up to $6,000 a month versus the annual comp. The middle one, Kindred, is talking, they actually have a bunch of messages mixed in here, but they're talking about kind of this tribe mentality, that this like speaking to this, Maslow's hierarchy of needs about being belonging somewhere. So they're join our tribe. They talk about location. We're the only agency in Central California. And then they talk about compensation. And then this third one is talking about kind of dream-based compensation, like outcome-based. What can this money do to change your life? And so all three talk about compensation, but there's slightly different messages. And so that's, again, like those levers that we keep talking about that I'm going to be hammering on, is which one is best performing. And you can figure that out using a tested method or a testing methodology, which we'll talk about next. So this is the way to do it. So creating an A/B test plan, and I'm using this in just kind of 1 month increments. It might be 2 month increments to get to your outcome, depending on how many ads you're running. But the idea is month one, you're message testing. So you're keeping the exact same format and you're going to test 3 or 4 messages. And the only thing that is different ad to ad to ad is message. Month 2, you take the top performing messages and you start testing format. And then month 3 is you combine those 2 and start running kind of what should be your optimal ad campaign. So again, we're going to share these slides out. I see people turning to screenshot, and you don't have to right now because we're going to send these to you. So that's on the paid ad side. So here's a quick little pop quiz for people, and you don't have to answer this. I'm not going to call out anybody on the spot. But if you're talking about like what percentage of visitors leave your website without contacting you, this is always a super surprising number to me. 98% of people have come to your website and you don't even know it, unless you're using something called pixels. And so I will hand this over just to Billy to talk through these couple of slides.
Yeah. If you're not using pixels, you are missing out on a big chunk of potential audience. And what pixels do is allow you to track someone with high intent across your website, all your different pages, and all of the different touch points that they're looking at. There are even some like particularly sophisticated systems that can pull in what emails they've seen, where they've been on your website, what social media ads they've engaged with. And it all starts with pixels. So you might have maybe a Meta pixel, but there's also Google Pixel. There's one for basically every ad service that you're using. These are pretty easy to install. And the main point of retargeting is this idea that there has to be multiple touch points. I think we're going to look at this number a little bit later, but you need to, it takes a lot more, and you probably already know this, but it takes a lot more than just showing someone one ad to get someone to engage with your software. So pixels allow you to retarget. So if someone looks at your website, you can then show them an ad on a social media platform that they're using.
Yeah, and just real fast, like retargeted ads are 76% more likely to get clicked on than a cold ad.
Yeah.
Let me go to the next.
Because you're slowly building up this sort of trust with a potential customer, a potential client, whoever it is that you're trying to acquire. So best practices here, the content has to be different. So you can't be showing them the same ad over and over again. If someone looks at an ad more than a handful of times and it's the same ad, they're just not even registering that ad anymore. Our brains just kind of start to shut it out. So that's why it's really, really important to have a really wide range of content, a really wide range of formats, of messaging, and also to really understand who you're trying to acquire, what they're motivated by, what's going to resonate with them. And so to really +1 what Erin said earlier around talk to the people that you've already acquired about what actually worked for them, what resonated with them. Because I think sometimes the answers will surprise you. I think we all have these sort of internal ideas about what works. And, you know, people are surprising and sometimes nonsensical, and they don't behave how you always expect them to. So we've got some interesting examples here. No, I'm really excited for y'all to see this. I'll hand over to Erin, but we've got some interesting examples of how you can generate content, because content is expensive, right? That's kind of the general ethos. Like when I was running Daylight, we had an in-house writer, we had an in-house graphic designer, we had an in-house social media person. You know, it gets really, really expensive, or it used to be really, really expensive to make content, but the world has changed. So it's a super exciting time to be running anything that's consumer facing.
Yeah, and so this is just an example of, you know, like, again, like not the same kinds of content of like just getting you to like, are you interested in surrogacy? Look at our agency, and then go a step deeper. So
money is important, but I chose Demo Agency for one simple reason. And if you're even thinking about surrogacy, you should hear it.
So starting to create content, specifically video, because it gets so much more clicks, about why your agency at that point. And this is just like a BTW, is I also created this video that you just saw with AI in about 30 seconds. I'm going to teach you how to do that in just a couple minutes. So another pop quiz. How many touch points does it take to convert someone's interest into action? And the hint on this one is we all know it, well, most of us that have took any marketing classes know that it takes 6 to 8 touch points to generate a viable lead in a low pressure decision. So for these high involvement decisions, high pressure decisions, like choosing to go on a surrogacy journey, it's 12 to 50 touch points. And so this, again, like, just reinforces the idea of like your paid ads, your pixels. So you're showing up multiple times in front of these people, and whether or not they click on your ad, I mean, that's obviously the goal, but even just seeing repetition, I mean, it's like our brains do really weird things with brands, but seeing something again and again and again and again starts to imbue trust. And so 12 to 50 touch points is a really important number to get behind. And I know, because we're talking to these agencies, and I know we hear it because, well, she filled out the application or she filled out the qualifying form, and my team tried 6 or 7 times to get in touch with her, and then we have to move on. And of course you have to move on, of course, because there's only so much human time you have. But this is where a technology platform can really help to provide some efficiency boost to your team. And so one of the things, like if we have to have 12 to 50 touches, we have to keep leads warmer longer. And one of the best ways to do that is to have some way of, and if you're capturing email in a qualifying form, something like that, is to start to incorporate email workflows. And so whether this is from a qualifying form, or you have some content on your website where somebody has to submit their email address in order to get to the content, whether or not you have a newsletter, whether or not you're doing a podcast, collecting email addresses and then building out what are called workflows or sequences, which almost every CRM has these days. So, I mean, we talk to agencies that are on Monday, HubSpot, Zoho, Orchid, like they almost, and I'm pretty sure Orchid does, I'm not totally sure, but if there's somebody from Orchid that uses Orchid and they have it, let us know in the chat. But I think with these email workflows, you build it once and then people flow through them. So it doesn't take any of your team time, and it just keeps people warm. And again, creating the content is really important to make sure that it's content that's adding value. But with a little bit of branching logic, you can have an email workflow up and running in a matter of a couple of days. So that concludes current technology that you're using in terms of how to optimize. And so I think what we're going to spend the rest of the session on is the new technology to consider using. And so there's 4 primary ones that we're going to talk through. The first one is AI models. ChatGPT is one of them. The second one are those AI video generators. Third one is Canva AI. And then we're going to walk you through Riley, which is our AI intake assistant. So the first one, I'm sure everyone has dabbled in the ChatGPTs, AI models, ChatGPT, also Claude is a great one, Gemini is a great one. If you're a Microsoft house, maybe it's a Copilot AI model that you're using, but these are huge efficiency boosters. They are not meant to replace humans. We all know there's no way that, especially in surrogacy, that technology can replace humans. But how do we supercharge the humans with some of these technology tools? That's always the goal. And so the key to any of these models is to get really good at developing prompts. So prompt engineering is what it's called, like how you build kind of the, hey, ChatGPT, I need you to go do this. That's called the prompt. And how you build that is going to greatly affect the output that you get from some of these models. I'm going to show you one in just a second. And so it's just an example for some of these agencies on the call that you can use ChatGPT or one of the other ones for is they can write all your social media posts, or at least they can develop them all, and then you can have a human go in and edit them to make sure it's the right tone and we're using the right words. And because again, ChatGPT, like it can get you 89% of the way there, but I always say like there should be a human for that last 11% to make sure we're not using an offensive word that ChatGPT didn't know was offensive or whatever it is. It can create blog ideas, just ideas. If you're like, what should be our content calendar for the month? Use ChatGPT to create the blog ideas. It could get outlines. It can even write the post for you, and then again have a human go in and edit. Draft articles for that gated content on your website that we're talking about. Draft those email workflows and sequences. It can write that for you in a matter of seconds. You can brainstorm headlines or content for your ads, for your paid ads. And then you can say like, and now give me an A/B test method over the next 3 months, and it will give you step-by-step how to use that A/B testing that I was talking about. You can even dump all of your current content in there, and it will rewrite any of your existing email templates if you want like a slightly different tone. Or if you want to have different tones for different audiences. Like for surrogates, we want to talk in this tone. For IPs, we want to talk in this tone. For clinics, we want to talk in this tone. Like you can very much switch it up. And so here's just an example of a prompt that you can, and again, we're going to send the slides. You don't have to screenshot it or try to recreate it. Is if you wanted to create a month of social media posts, this is an example of a prompt that you can use. And I tried to highlight and bold some of the sections where it would be very specific to the agency or the organization using it, as in terms of like plugging in your values, plugging in the tone that you want. But this is just an example of and then literally it spits out your month of social media content for you. And the one hot tip I always tell organizations with these AI models is the more you use it, the smarter it will get. But what I recommend is you want to keep, potential surrogate candidate content in a thread and keep IP content in a thread, keep your agency content, keep clinic content in a different thread. Because if you're just using the same thread and just like ChatGPTing kind of muddled together, it will still be okay, but it will get much more smarter about like, hey, I know exactly how they want to talk to surrogate candidates now if you keep it all in one thread, and then I know exactly what messages we're using for IPs in another thread. If you keep those threads separate, it'll be much more efficient for you. Okay, we're cruising, and I recognize this is probably like sipping through a fire hose, but again, like we'll make our contact information available at the end in case you're going to go deeper on any one of these. Google AI videos. So this is a free platform where you can create up to 3 8-second videos every day if you wanted to. And we all know videos get way more attention than static ads. So just to give an example, I just created one, it took me about 30 seconds to create this one just for Simbi.
Surrogacy is changing. Simbi helps your agency balance tech with human touch. And P.S., this video was created with AI.
The production values are incredible. You can get really specific about what you want. And so for example, this next video, I said, this was the prompt that I plugged in. Create a video of a hip pregnant woman about 8 months. Her tone should be like a wise friend. I'd like warm, peaceful, light and bright surroundings outside. I'd like her to be holding her belly. And the pregnant woman should say, yes, the money really matters, but feeling seen, supported, and valued, that's what I'll never forget. And here was the outcome.
Yes, the money really matters, but feeling seen, supported, and valued, that's what I'll never forget.
I mean, 12 seconds to create that video, and it even added the music bed behind there. And so just to show you how easy it is to switch things up, I said, okay, great. Thanks. That was a great video. Now I'd like the woman to be African American. I'd like her to be sitting inside. I'd like her to rub her belly. Oh, and I'd like her to have an international accent.
Yes, the money really matters, but feeling seen, supported, and valued, that's what I'll never forget.
Again, and we're showing potential surrogates here, and I don't want to be offending. I don't want to offend anybody in terms of like, you might not want to make up surrogates to put in your ads. You might be an executive director or something like that talking. So I don't want to say like we should fake, like surrogate testimonials for your agency. Absolutely not. But just to give you examples of just how easy it is to create video content. And what people on this call might be thinking is like, okay, Erin, great. Like now I have a video, but how do I turn that into an ad? I'm not a tech whiz. And so let's walk through that. So Canva AI is the third technology that I'm sure most of you have also dabbled in Canva in some respect, but Canva AI is kind of their supercharged platform. And you can auto-generate ads, stories, carousels. You can plug in your agency's brand information about your logos, your colors, your font, and it will help you stay super consistent with ads. And again, this will be in the brand webinar, but having come from the brand side of the house, I can tell you that using design consistently will actually create a business asset for your agency. Like repetitive brand again and again and again starts to create credibility versus like, oh, we're going to use these colors over here on this ad, and we'll use these on the FAQ and this on the website. Like I will hammer this in the brand webinar in August. But Canva does a great job of making sure people stay consistent in at least the colors and some of the imagery. So here's another video that just kind of shows you how easy it is to take a video like we just created and create an ad. Just kidding. There we go. So you can upload a video or an image. It will come up with options for you. You can pick an option. You can choose the color palette that you want to. And then you can go to your own editor and add your logo, add call to action, whatever you want to do. So it's literally like, all right, video created in Google AI, downloaded, uploaded into Canva. Canva AI, create an ad for me that does XYZ. Great. Editor, add logo, download for Facebook formats, and boom, you're done. So it can instantly export in any dimensions you need. You can use kind of the same creative across any different applications. So the same ad you're using for Facebook, you can just download them for TikTok dimensions. So it makes it really, really easy. And then again, like I said, this is the brand kit for Simbi in Canva. But like having logos, colors, fonts, you can even incorporate your brand voice in there. So I created about 2 paragraphs worth of like, this is the tone I want Simbi to always speak in. And so then Canva will then help me create headlines and content that are in that tone. So again, this is like a huge efficiency booster. And coming from the brand world where we've spent so much money on graphic designers, this is a big time saver. And just giving you a couple examples. So here's Billy, our new surrogate, but just using the Simbi ad template, created this in about 12 seconds. And then let's see here. Let's see if this video works for me. I used a video from earlier that you might recognize.
Money is important, but I chose Demo Agency for one simple reason. And if you're even thinking about surrogacy, you should hear it.
So again, like that would be an example of one of those retargeted ads that took about 12 seconds to create it. Okay, I am going to hand this over to Billy. Billy, just let me know when you want me to cruise through slides to talk through Riley, which is our AI intake assistant.
Sure thing. So you followed all of Erin's wonderful advice. You have a really rich ad library. You're acquiring so many surrogate candidates. They're all clicking on your ads, they're reaching out to you. What do you do now? Because now you've got hundreds of people to try and call. A lot of them may not be suitable despite your best efforts to filter. We've heard from a lot of agencies that Meta, is not particularly good at figuring out or incorporating ASRM guidelines into its targeting. And so that's where we come in. So we have built a virtual intake assistant. She's powered by AI as well. And through phone call, SMS, and web chat, she can do that initial qualifying call so that you only need to talk to the candidates who you want to talk to that are suitable for your agency. You can set that criteria. It's fully customizable. You can set the criteria, what she says, what questions she asks, how she qualifies people. We have some agencies that don't want her to disqualify anyone on the call. We have some people that do. She can really handle incredibly well gray area and nuance. It's not, I imagine a lot of you have, simple interest forms that disqualify for BMI and that kind of thing. But when you get into the nitty gritty of like, yes, I had diet controlled GD, but only with my first, how do you capture that in a form without making someone answer a load of questions and building really, really complex logic? So she handles all of that. And then she puts all of those candidates into a dashboard, puts all the criteria in, the transcript, everything, so that you are empowered with that information. And you are able to then move them through a process, do follow-ups, that kind of thing. And then most CRMs, with the exception of Orchid, we can build full API integration with. If you are using Orchid, our workaround right now is that we have PDF exports and that kind of thing, or email exports. Sadly, I think Andrew left the call. I was gonna ask him if he wanted to work together on an API. But yeah, so our goal really is to slot into your existing process, be as easy as possible to get up and running, and to benefit your process. And yeah, so I think we can head over to the next slide. I may have talked over a lot of it. So yeah, so the way she slots in, gestational carrier candidate comes through your ads, maybe is on your website, clicks on an interest form. She fills out that initial kind of interest form, which we'll host on your website for you, and does some very basic hard DQ disqualifying. And then the candidate has the ability to choose how they move forward. So they can click like, I want to receive a phone call right now. Doesn't matter if it's 2 a.m., doesn't matter if it's Memorial Day, 4th of July, Sunday. She can call whenever they click, instantly. Maybe I want to receive a text instead. I've got kids, I'm handling a lot right now. Or if they want to stay in the browser, they can also do a web chat version. And also the candidate can switch between all of those different methods. Like if they start a phone call, but then they need to go, they can continue on via text. Then Riley does all of her qualifying. And once that qualifying is complete, she puts together the application, no flags, yellow flags, red flags, and then provides that information for you so that you're able to move them through a process.
So why don't we do, just to give you an example, because I think it's better when you see it in person. So I think we're gonna do a live call with Riley right now, and I think Billy's gonna be our potential surrogate.
Yeah, I'm going to obviously somewhat lie on this call because obviously, as I mentioned before, cannot have children of my own, but you'll get the idea. So Erin, if you can just give me a thumbs up to confirm that you can hear Riley talking. So I filled out the form. I'm clicking have Riley call me now. And then she's calling.
I'm Riley from Demo Surrogacy. Am I speaking with Billy?
Yeah, speaking.
Great. Choosing to help grow a family is a beautiful, life-changing decision. So thank you for your interest. We're a team with 50+ years of experience under one roof, so you're in great hands. You can call me back or text me anytime if we get disconnected. You can also ask me to schedule a chat with a member of the team at any time. Shall we get started to see if you qualify to be a surrogate? Or do you have any questions first about our program or how surrogacy works?
No, let's get started.
Wonderful. Let's dive in. First, have you ever had or been diagnosed with any of the following? I'll go one at a time. A hysterectomy, type 1 diabetes, heart surgery, multiple sclerosis, cancer, lupus, HIV or AIDS, hepatitis B or C, bipolar disorder, or schizophrenia?
Nope.
Great. Thank you for confirming. Next, how many times have you been pregnant?
I've been pregnant 4 times.
Thanks for sharing. And how many children do you have?
I have 3 children.
Got it. Can you help me understand the difference between the number of pregnancies you've had versus the number of children? For example, was there a miscarriage, stillbirth, or similar?
No, I've been a surrogate 1 time before.
Thank you for sharing that detail. Have your pregnancies included vaginal births, C-sections, or a mix of both? How many of each?
I had 1 C-section and 3 vaginal.
Thank you for sharing. Now, when was your last delivery?
My last delivery was 12 months ago.
Perfect. Thank you. During your last delivery, how many weeks was that baby born at?
40 weeks.
Great to hear. Did you have any complications in any of your pregnancies? For example, preeclampsia, gestational diabetes, incompetent cervix, postpartum depression, or high blood pressure?
Yeah, I had GD.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Was your gestational diabetes managed by diet or insulin?
Yeah, just diet, and it was just like my first. After that, I was fine.
Thanks for clarifying. I'll make a note of that. Next question. This one is a little sensitive, but have you ever had an abortion? This will stay fully confidential.
No.
Thank you for sharing. And have you ever had a miscarriage? If so, how many?
No, I haven't.
Thank you for confirming. We're nearly done. Do you have any questions or concerns about the surrogacy process or demo surrogacy that I can answer for you?
Yeah, how much can I get paid?
Good question. The base compensation for a first-time surrogate typically starts around $60,000 and it's paid out monthly over the course of the pregnancy. On top of that, there's an additional benefits package totaling around $10,900. If you've been a surrogate before, like you shared earlier, you may be able to negotiate for an even higher base compensation. There are also bonuses, including $1,500 for an embryo transfer and $500 for starting medication, along with coverage for expenses like childcare, maternity clothing, and more. It's a comprehensive package to address your needs throughout the process. Does that help, or would you like more details?
No, that's good.
Thank you for answering all the questions and for your interest in surrogacy. Based on what you shared, you're a great fit to be a surrogate. I'll text you the link to the full application and a checklist of next steps to get started. Do you have any other questions before we wrap up?
No, that's all. Thank you so much, Riley. Okay, so that's an example of the call. Obviously, fully customizable, so you can change the questions that she asks, the criteria that she's matching against. You can attach your own knowledge base. So if there are nuances to your agency around compensation, things like that, she can take all of that in and answer based on that knowledge base. We can change her voice. She can speak Spanish. She can detect Spanish. We're working on other languages. Right now, she's best at English and Spanish. And I didn't do it then, but if I'd wanted to hang up the call midway through, I could have texted her and she would have picked up the questions where she left off. And so, yeah, fully customizable in that way. I think if we switch to the next screen, I'll show you what you will all see. So the candidates will all come through onto this beautifully designed dashboard. And you can see there's kind of like a to review section here. So all of the candidates will come through here. There's we've got 2 Shradders here. We're obviously testing this a lot at the moment. And if you go to the next screen, so when you click on a candidate, you get all of the information that you need. So you see the criteria that was met, where there were yellow flags, if there are any questions that weren't answered, like if I hung up the call halfway through or something, basic contact information and a summary, so that you can just at a glance see like, okay, like youngest child is 3, born at 38 weeks, etc. We've got some action items here for if you want to do follow-ups, send them the application as the next step. That sort of workflow is somewhat customizable. So if you don't want to do application here, you want to schedule a call with a member of the team next as the next step, that's something we can do. Export to CRM, disqualify, and then next slide. You can go in more deeply into the screening results. You can see that checklist that you'll set with us when you're onboarding with us. So, the BMI, number of children, what the youngest age of the child is. You can see here abortion history was not asked. We've got a yellow flag here for gestational diabetes with some information, but I can click, I can mouse over and click see transcript, and then you can go to the full transcript and see exactly what was said. So you get all of that detail, and you can see, if you think that it will be an issue or if it's going to be fine. The full transcript is available. And yeah, onto the next slide. And then we have our kind of in progress slide. So follow-ups that are being done. Riley's able to do automatic follow-ups. So she can text people, on a cadence that you would set in order to get them to finish, this initial qualification. We got a question coming in. Can we customize which contact methods are available to the potential DC? So if we wanted to limit to text and email, yeah, we can do that. That sort of initial that initial screen that the surrogate candidates will see is fully customizable in that sense. And then it's really here. This is like your center, your project center, so that you can keep everyone organized and know exactly where all the candidates are. And then if we go to the next slide, and then this is your archive. So people that you've exported to your CRM, people that have been disqualified. We can either set it up that Riley, if someone has like a hard DQ, like I've never had a kid before, they just automatically go in this disqualified field. So you don't even have to, it doesn't clog up your new candidates pipeline. You can also send people here if like a yellow flag is a no for you guys. So let's click into Anna David. You can see here, she'd never actually carried and given birth to at least one child. So really basic. We hear this all the time from agencies that they're getting applications for people that have never even had children before, which we all know is a hard DQ. So the goal here really is we've saved you the time and effort of chasing down Emma, getting her on the phone, only for her to say, oh, I actually don't have any kids.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really the beauty. Yeah, so you can kind of see exactly what was happening. And she obviously did meet some criteria. She was a US citizen, and so far no disqualifying medical conditions, but ultimately there's a red flag. And then we also provide a really beautiful top-down look at all of your metrics so that you can really see the impact. I know that Meta Ad Center is really confusing and overwhelming. I get overwhelmed every time I look at it. And so this is, a cleaner way to see how your ads are performing, who's coming in at the top of funnel, where they're getting through into the process, how many people are disqualifying. If that disqualifying rate is really high, maybe you need to be making some tweaks to your ads because you're pulling in the wrong kind of person. And so, yeah, again, our goal here is to just really empower you with as much information as we can so that you can run an easier process and get back to doing the stuff that you love to do.
And that is kind of the end of our new technology section. So I think if anybody has questions, we're happy to stick around and answer any questions. But then if anybody wants to go deeper on any of these topics with either me or Billy, Billy's email address is here. Feel free to email and we can get that set up right away. And then I do have two other little plugs for some upcoming things. I'm going to have everybody try to save this date if you are interested in attending kind of the brand webinar in terms of like, how do we create our agency point of view or the unique proposition that sets our agency apart? How do we do that? And that's going to be August 5th. I will send out an email probably next week inviting everybody to that. And I might just put the people that are already on this webinar over there. So if you're here, you're going to be invited to that. I'm just going to show up on your calendar. And then the second little plug is we are launching our own podcast at the end of July. And so this is a podcast that is only geared towards you. So B2B surrogacy professionals. So this is aimed at kind of connecting this community a little bit more, talking about technologies, talking about the right balances, talking about what works, what doesn't work. And so we are actively recording our initial sessions or episodes right now. And so look for that end of July. And we will also get an email about that when that launches. And if anyone here on this call is interested in participating on the podcast, if you have a unique point of view around technology that you want to share, feel free to reach out to me because we're talking to a bunch of agencies right now in our episodes. So with that, I will just say thank you. And Billy and I are happy to stick around on this call. I think we have about 8 minutes left on our time. And if not, then we will follow up. I saw the question come in about recording. We'll wait for this to record and you should have it in your inbox by tomorrow, latest. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Amber. Hi, Shraddha. Let's see. I am going to, let's see here, stop recording.